Virginia has elections every year, and you know what? It's nerve-wracking. It's aggravating. It's like, is there ever a chance for a break? The answer is no. And yet, there are people that run for office. There are people that run and chase candidates, trying to figure out what's going on. Maybe just celebrity, chasing their favorites, and maybe they don't care and they sit home. But there are some folks that are there all the time. They have committed an act of public service for quite a while, and they get smart, and I think they get smarter over time. So we're going to spend a little sip of tea talking to one of the veterans behind the scenes that has been working elections in all capacities. Let's meet Keith Flanagan. So Keith, you are a veteran. You're a behind-the-scenes elections officer. You've been a Tea Party chairman early on. You've been an electoral board chairman. You're a master gardener. You're a beekeeper. You can do anything with your hands, and yet you choose to work as an election officer, supporting elections locally year after year after year. So, is it fair to call you at least a reasonable local expert?
Yes. I was recruited in 2011 when I was working at a farmer's market. And I was brought in, and it was the year that the 2010 census, they couldn't get the redistricting done. So we had an August primary, like yesterday, which was a very rare thing. And it was the year we had that really bad earthquake, which disrupted everything. So my first election was the earthquake election. So I've been through an awful lot of crazy things. Nothing crazier than that yet, but the day's young.
It's the day after, as it were, from the time that we're recording this. I was kind of shocked because it looked like nobody knew, or nobody cared, or nobody showed up, or something was going on with this primary statewide. What did you see from your angle?
Some elections we had one a couple of years ago that the big joke around was that the person who won the election was the sign maker, because there were signs everywhere. This election, I didn't see maybe 2 or 3. There was a person that was working at one of our polling stations that we were supposed to contact that was unaware that the election was going to happen on Friday. So there was no signs, or very, very, very few signs. Usually Goochland is participating. We have all kinds of people. I mean, there's signs everywhere. There's all this stuff going on. So even if you don't know what's happening, really, there's an election coming up. This time it was completely different.
Completely dead. So, and it wasn't just Goochland, it was statewide, wasn't it?
I agree. Yes. I mean, we went last weekend, we drove all over the state. We didn't see any signs at all. And TV, there's no ads.
Oh, so in terms of media consumption, if you're in your car, you may or may not see a sign. Otherwise, there really was very little. In terms of mailers, I think I got one from some of the candidates.
I got a couple because I was in the Tea Party and Electoral Board, but not many. Not like usually. It's like I have to take a whole wheelbarrow load to the trash after a couple of days.
So my question is, from you, to you as an insider, and hopefully I assume that you would have a perspective on what was different about this primary election that made it basically a muted non-occurrence.
It was hard to say, but one of the races had an incumbent that was relatively popular, and the challenger did not spend the money or put out the signs to really challenge.
So the challenge was essentially invisible then, I guess.
Yes, and the other one was somebody that thought they were going to win it, and then 2 people that ran against them had, they didn't do it either. So it wasn't a competitive race at all. There was no energy. We had that election this spring for the amendment that, right. I mean, most of the county turned out. It was signs everywhere. I mean, everybody was a lot of enthusiasm on both sides. This one, I didn't see any enthusiasm on either side.
So that's interesting, because it's not a perspective. It wasn't a perspective I thought of. Is that the election momentum is driven by the candidates, not just their camp. Well, I guess the candidates, their campaigns are interchangeable, but there was either no ability to have volume or ability was unexercised for volume.
I would say that's
And
exactly right.
wow, that's interesting. I guess it really wasn't worth it. It was just something to get past, and leaving it as status quo was sufficient. Well, that was a quick interview. I got my answer. So you're working, the election. It's a low turnout, which is not common for, for your experience. What's it like? Is it just like you take turns with nap shifts? How
We
how
did.
does that work?
Uh,
I was kidding about
we
the
had
naps.
the last primary we had 4 voters by 10 o'clock,
Oh,
and then it picked up, and we had a pretty typical turnout. Yesterday, it was steady, but it was extremely slow. For the first couple hours, like 1 voter every 15 minutes. Then it picked
hmm.
up, but we still got, even with early voting, we had less than 13% in this
So
precinct.
in terms of what you know about the state, did you have any data on like percentages of how much of each party showed up and that kind of thing overall?
I thought I saw that there was like 7% of the Democrats showed up to vote in the state, and like maybe 12 or 13% of the Republicans. So it was
And
an
that's
extremely low turnout.
so. What does that tell you, just with your experience and what you've seen about the upcoming general, which is not that far away?
I think that's going to be considerably different.
Okay.
Once we have the candidates now, see, Goochland County votes. We have 7 or 8 plaques in our registrar's office that we were the highest voter turnout in the Commonwealth of Virginia on several different races, presidentials and governor races. So people in Goochland, they really vote. I mean, it's a big deal here.
Mhm.
And I think the midterm is going to go back to where, because everybody's, one thing, they're going to be aware it's happening because they're going to watch the news.
Right.
They're going to know that, and they're going to hear all kind of stuff coming up about it. So at least everybody be aware there's a whole.
Okay. So there's going to be an increased awareness. And I guess the candidates would drive that. Enthusiasts and supporters would drive that. Campaigns would be funded to do
And they'd
that.
have a lot more backing from the parties.
Yeah, yeah. So there's this argument, right? It's like, why are you bothering? You're not going to win. Why don't you stay home, right? You wasted everybody's time, and there's questions are being kicked around. And, I kind of think that that's true and it's not true. I'm not sure what you think. What's your view of like how should candidates that don't have a snowball's chance in hell be be encountered or communicated with when they're out of nowhere, no experience, having no real engagement with politics until they get the calling to make an effort because they don't see the effort they need being made? What would you tell them if you could make a rule about that?
Running for office is something that if you have the feeling you need to do, you need to do, even if you
Okay,
don't think you're going to win. You need to
okay,
bring up the negative points of your opponent because people need to know that. And if you don't run, those will be completely hidden. And sometimes they're significant enough to make a difference.
hmm.
Sometimes it's just normal politics, but if you run a hard race against somebody, even if you lose, you've made them answer questions and and
Uh,
and and answer things that they did not want or would not have had to if you hadn't been there.
that's a good point. I mean, the thing that me running for office, same time you did once upon a time back in 2015,
Yep.
is it was a crash course and everything I should have already known, but never would have known until I went through
Exactly right.
that civics crash course. And, I benefited greatly in terms of what I understood and how things worked. And yeah, so I do have a debt of gratitude to pay to the Republican Party that invested my campaign at the time. Though I've paid it back in spades since.
I was listening to a podcast this morning of a lady whose father was a major general in combat in Iraq, and he got out of the army and went into the politics, and he said politics is a lot harder than being in combat.
Is that right? Is that
I thought there's a
wow?
significant thing that people that have him run does not know.
It really is. I mean, and then you talk to folks who have run, and I think local is harder to serve than it is on the state. Not that it's easy at any level, but I mean, your neighbors are right next door, and they got your phone number, and you can't easily ignore them. You hear from them all the time, and no one's happy about anything ever. It really is a thankless job, but if you're not called, I guess, then you're not going to be bothering to spend the energy.
Well, if you're not called to be on the ballot, go to help. You don't
Yeah.
have to put your name out there, but you can put yourself out there, and you can mail stuff. You can make phone calls. There's all kinds of things you can do behind the scenes.
Yeah. So
So
what's next for you in terms of your efforts to support local elections? You've been doing it for like 16 years now with
yeah,
210.
I'll
Okay,
be.
so
I'm gonna continue doing this till they tell me I'm too old to do it.
so
It is such a good thing. One thing is nice. I meet all my neighbors. I mean, it's got a chance to see all kinds of people,
yeah.
and it's I enjoy it tremendously.
So there is such a thing as a poll relationship. You don't see them unless you're at the polls and you see them year after
Happened
year because
yesterday.
there's an election every year. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point. So, any prognosis for how this midterm works out in the general coming up?
I think the Republicans are going to do great.
I love the sound of that.
Seeing who's been elected, there's a lot to run against.
That's a good point.
There's an awful lot of statements. There's an awful lot of things. There's an awful lot of billboards of the statements they've made. And if
Yeah.
everybody gets involved, and also the Democrats seem to have a lot less money, which
I
is,
wonder why that is.
I think USAID went out and they all of a sudden didn't get all their donations.
What was the name
That's
of that other?
theory?
Just a theory. It seems pretty sound. What was the other thing that they were doing? They were scamming people by stealing names and making contributions in small
Yeah,
bits
that's
to their
the Act Blue.
Act Blue. Yeah.
Yeah, Act
Man.
Blue. There should be a bunch of those guys in prison here soon.
That'll
All their
help.
attorneys quit.
Uh-oh, what's that? Is that is that the writing on the wall? Let me get out of here. Well, that's a good thing to be optimistic about. Any other? I'm going to leave our conversation with this. I do want to thank you, one, for your friendship, and also your I mean, because I've taken a lot of cues from you in terms of a practical look, and it's been useful to me because there's not too many grounded viewpoints. There's a lot of viewpoints, but not too many grounded ones. So I've benefited from that. You're going to be in it until they tell you, Keith, going home. So you've got about another 60 years to go for that.
What did Clarence Thomas say? They're going to take me out feet first.